After Batman confronts Highfather, he is barely able to hurt him before being put to the ground with a single punch. At that same moment, Alfred gets between the two, screaming in desperation at the idea of losing another loved one. But in a blink of hope, that scream is suddenly heard across the cosmos, taking Damian and the anti-life equation by surprise. And now, fully transformed into the spirit of vengeance, the Spectre moves at full speed before crushing Highfather's skull. Meanwhile, Lois is directing the civilians to the Arks, as Ollie keeps the undead at bay. Back in space, the team is confronted by the army of Thanagarians, when in the distance, Lobo appears. "Well, this looks like a fraggin' fun time," he said before being confronted by Lightray. Them. He moves against him without hesitation and grabs him with his hook, taking his head off. Back on Earth 2, Big Barda is furious, taking Adam Strange by the neck before hitting him bluntly in the head. However, Mr. Miracle shouts at her to stop. Someone they have been looking for days has appeared. Jacob, their son, has long been lost to the virus, and in seconds he moves in, thrusting his bare hands into his father's chest. Alfred, now looking down at the deceased body of Highfather, is suddenly called by Batman. When he says that everything is all right, he is safe now. Sadly, he is not, before grabbing his head and shouting that he can feel the virus moving through him. Wonder Woman can't believe it, trying to console him when Damian, unable to speak clearly, says, "I'm sorry, Cassie. I tried, but is not late for Alfred." She looks at the new entity, unsure, when Damian continues, looking back at him. "I know you are going to tear them apart, Alfred. You'll want to destroy, but you have the power to save." Before he can say the next words, Damian is lost to the equation, shouting with rage. At the same time, Maxima tries to catch the rest by surprise when Wonder Woman, furiously, grabs her hand before counterattacking at full force. Then another problem arises when a boom tube opens, and from it, Darkseid appears, accompanied by his personal army and a planetoid at his disposal. The Spectre takes flight before looking back at Cassie and tells her to keep them at bay until he returns. Wonder Woman can't understand why he is leaving at this precise time when he takes off from Earth 2. Superman proceeds to move against Darkseid when he turns and grabs him. Brainiac also appears, helping John to overcome him, but it proves ineffective. Darkseid turns against Brainiac, now forcing the mother box through his skull, bringing him over to the equation's side. Immediately, he flies toward his own ship when Cyborg notices it. As Brainiac reaches his collection, the plan is revealed. The anti-life is forcing him to destroy every planet. Luckily, Victor appears moments later and hits him in the back with his cannon before looking down at him. "We know you name, and we know what you are. If you can hear me, Erebos, these cities are under my protection." But the being doesn't stop there, attacking Cyborg back with his technological tentacles, penetrating his armor. Then something unexpected happens. Victor smiles back at him, adding that he can feel him lurking through his firewalls. "But all I can say is that it is a very bad move, because now I know you can't control me. You can't infect me. But I can infect Brainiac, I can control him, take his technology and knowledge. So Brainiac is mine now, and with all that power and knowledge, Cyborg takes control of the ship and moves toward Earth 2. At the same time, Green Arrow gives the bad news to Lois, telling her that there are hundreds of enemies between them and the Arks. But even worse, even his bow and arrow have a limit. Immediately, Cyborg appears, bringing chaos toward his enemies, and as he chokes the undead, he proceeds to ask Lois for the last city of Krypton, Kandor. Meanwhile, Superman takes his leave, passing Dinah and Mary at full speed when Batgirl takes over, kicking Darkseid right in the head. What has happened is that John has seen something no one else could. Warworld has unleashed its full firepower toward the planet. He decides to intervene, taking the full blast of the planetoid directly before being overcome by it. Then something unexpected happens. As he falls back to Earth, thousands of Kryptonians appear, flying toward the battlefield. It seems Cyborg, with the power of Brainiac, has reverse-engineered the bottle in which the city of Kandor was trapped. Now, we see the Spectre flying at full speed toward the battlefield, where the Kryptonians are keeping the Thanagarians at bay. As he moves through space, carrying hundreds of containers, he proceeds to drop them everywhere, now available for everyone to use. Immediately, Batman is injected by Leslie Tompkins, returning to his former self before looking back at Alfred, unable to believe he chose salvation rather than destruction. As Wonder Woman moves to hug him, Damian holds his chest, mentioning that he appreciates the hug, but some pieces of his ribs are floating where they shouldn't. Elsewhere, Superman and Mary Marvel are holding Darkseid back, while Batgirl punches the shit out of him. Out of nowhere, Lobo appears, mentioning that he knows a technique, before Superman replies that he doesn't want any of his rudimentary plans. Rudimentary? I'm talking about advanced fragging surgery. Give me the cure. He looks down at Darkseid before shouting, "Hey, Oblivion, eat my cure," and in seconds introduces the antidote with a hole punch. Darkseid retaliates, biting his whole hand when Lobo screams, looking at it and shouting, "My hand, you bastich! I use that hand for some of my favorite things." Suddenly, Darkseid's voice can be heard, asking what has happened when Alfred appears, telling him, "You were taken, we brought you back, and you have been used, new god." Immediately, he asks by whom, when the Spectre mentions Erebos' name. He can't believe he was turned into a pawn when his face hardens with rage, muttering that his vengeance will be terrible.